But now it's the time for OB to repeal Obamacare. But as the President-elect said today, and I admonished members of the House Republican Conference today, it's important that they remind the American people of what they already know about Obamacare, that the promises that were made were all broken.
Vice President-elect Mike Pence speaking after meeting with some members of the Republican House delegation, and we have Congresswoman Wagner on the phone with us right now, of course, from the 2nd Congressional District, who is going to be meeting with the Vice President-elect later today. Ann, how are you?
Hey, good to be with you. Happy New Year to you and your listeners, Mark.
Thank you. Same to you. An exciting day yesterday.
Yeah, it was. Oh, my gosh. Everyone is jubilant and hopeful. It's a new day has dawned, I am here to tell you. So it was really fantastic, very special.
You know, we went ahead and did a Twitter poll to find out what our listeners were looking for out of this Congress, and I'll just tell you, it's not done yet, but the far-away winner right now is repealing Obamacare. So Chuck Schumer came out today and made a lot of noise about the fact that this was going to put poor people in the doghouse or something. I'm not quite sure what he was alleging, but where did things stand, and what does Obamacare get replaced with, and how long do you think that's going to take?
Well, we are full steam ahead, and in fact, that meeting with the Republican Conference, Mark, was this morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. This is the second or third time that Vice President-elect Pence has been here to meet specifically with us. I'm excited about some of the things he had to say. He's not only going to have an office on the Senate side, he's going to have one on the House side, too, and is working very closely with us. And specifically, we talked about Obamacare, and he said it is Trump's first order of business, and he's going to keep the promises to the American people to repeal and replace. And at the same time that Vice President-elect Pence was meeting with us, President Obama was meeting with the Democrats on the Hill. This may be the second time I've ever heard of him coming to the Hill in the 4 years that I've served. And as far as I'm concerned, President Obama was there to defend failed policies. Vice President Pence was here to advance a hopeful future, and we are getting to action here in twofold way. Mark, honestly, what Mike Pence had to say was that they're going to do it by taking both immediate executive action and then, secondly, by our legislative package that will go forward. So people have rejected it. They're tired of it. 80% of Americans want some sort of change. They want their health care broadened. They want access. They want affordability. They want quality. And that's what we're going to give them.
So when it comes to unwinding this, I just want to wrap my brain around this. Some of this stuff you can do with a simple majority vote, I understand. But then there are other parts of it, like the exchanges, that are going to have to be, the law on those will have to be rewritten. And that's going to be a little more of a challenge, correct?
Well, correct. And we can do something called reconciliation. Once we have our budget, which will happen in February, they've been submitted already, and President Trump wants them on his desk, and we're going to have a budget that not only balances, but will allow us to move forward through a procedural process called reconciliation here. Well, we're able to repeal a good bit of Obamacare along with some replacement mechanisms. But what's interesting is that there are also some things that can immediately be done through executive action, and we need for that to happen. I mean, premiums, again, in 2017 it varies widely from state to state, but on average, Mark, across the country, they're going to go up some 25%. And what's very interesting, because Aetna and United Healthcare are no longer offering individual health insurance plans in Missouri, you know that 96 of Missouri's 114 counties only have one insurance carrier this year.
You have no choice.
It's bad.
Sure. So one more question on healthcare. I wonder how much of the price increase is driven by the fact that this law requires so many different things to be included in every policy. I mean, I think about it like auto insurance. I mean, if I want a $2 deductible, I'm clearly going to pay a whole lot more for that policy than if I would like to have a higher deductible. It seems like some of those options were put in cement in Obamacare.
Right.
Aren't some of these premiums simply going to go down because we're reducing some of those requirements and letting people choose their own health care plan?
We have to put this back in the free market and put people, individuals, in charge of their own health care. And we have replacement ideas like portability across state lines. Why can't you buy your health care just like you can your car insurance?
Sure.
We need competition in the insurance market. We're going to take care of pre-existing conditions, things of this nature, but we want fair premiums, not premiums that are going up year after year after year, along with deductibles and other things. Health savings account, those are key. And to let individuals, pre-tax dollars save and pay for their health care themselves. Association plans, catastrophic coverage plans. I mean, why does a young person who's 28 years old want to pay for pediatric dental when really all they want is a catastrophic plan that'll cover them if they get hit by a truck? If they've got a strep throat or need a couple stitches, they'll go to that old doc in the box. Those
Sure.
kinds of things we're going to do. So we've got replacement mechanisms. We're not going to leave anybody high and dry here. There will be a stable transition, but we have heard the people loud and clear, and they want action on this, and we're going to take it, and it's going to be what we're doing right out of the gate. To quote Vice President-Elect Pence, he said, "It's time to get to work. No more business as usual," and we're very, very excited to move forward.
Congresswoman Ann Wagner is our guest. I want to ask you real quick. I listened to Congressman Gohmert commenting on the ethics office reform, and he said it was kind of mishandled. What was the thinking behind that in terms of moving this and renaming it and sticking it under another committee? Some people felt like it improperly targeted people or assumed guilt prior to innocence. What's your take on that?
Well, I have consistently voted against lowering congressional ethics standards, and withdrawing this amendment was absolutely the right thing to do. I went straight to leadership when this was moved in the conference the night before and said, this is wrong. I've voted 3 times since I've been in Congress against weakening the Office of Congressional Ethics. I called very strongly for another conference before we went to the floor. These are not the priorities of the American people. This does not set the proper tone for draining the swamp, and I was in strong opposition of this amendment and any weakening of our congressional ethics process since I've been here on the Hill. So it was wrong to have done. I stood firmly against it, and I will continue to do it. People sent us here with other priorities, like repealing Obamacare, reforming tax code, getting our economy moving again, restoring their freedoms that have been chipped away for the past 8 years or more. So I'm glad that we came to the right resolution on this, and there may be areas where an independent watchdog can come in and look at the Office of Congressional Ethics. But right now, we need to be held to the highest and strongest standards, and I have always felt that way.
That's great. I want to switch to tax reform real quick because you mentioned it. I've heard that word kicked around for 30 years, and the last time I can remember it being dramatically changed was under Ronald Reagan. Why is it so difficult to thin this thing down? I mean, we shouldn't face a tax code that's 3 feet thick.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there are you could stack the pages, and it would be as tall as I am at 5'4". So to make it simpler is important. To make it smarter is important. We're going to see major corporate tax reform down to maybe 2 different brackets. We're going to see things like the repatriation tax reform, where we can bring money that our U.S. corporations have abroad, bring it back without them paying an exorbitant tax on it, and invest it here in America. So this is key. This is how you stimulate the economy. Individuals need also need more tax relief. And I want to see things just co-sponsored, original co-sponsor on putting an end to the death tax, things of this nature. So we're gonna take this on. Again, I think it's going to be something you'll hear us talk about in the first 100 days. Number one, I'll tell you this President Trump is going to show up on day one. He's cutting the. You can be the first to hear cutting the parade shorter than ever, because he wants to get to the office to overturn a lot of executive orders that are in place. And that was an announcement that the Vice President-Elect made today also. And in that keeping, I took to the floor today to talk about two bills that we're going to pass. The REINS Act, which I voted for in the past, that requires the executive branch, any executive branch agency, rule, or regulation with an annual economic impact of about $100 million or more, has to come back before Congress for an up or down vote before being enacted. We're finally going to have the REINS Act signed into law. And the cost of this overburdensome rules and regulations are costing American households here in our own 2nd District upwards of $15,000 in a hidden tax for every single household. So
Wow.
I spoke on the REINS Act this morning, and we're going to pass that along with the Midnight Relief Rules Act, which is going to stop the Obama administration from these last-minute regulations and taking effect as they are supposed to be turning off the lights and heading out the door. So we're doing a couple of those things this week, too.
And I've got about a minute and a half left, so I want to ask this real quick and as quickly as you can answer it. Do you think we will see any movement on immigration reform this year?
You bet. In fact, I can tell you that the Vice President even talked about the wall and securing our borders. So I believe you're going to see action on this. This is what the American people want. It's certainly what I want. I believe that this is going to be in some of our top priorities.
Well, we're looking forward to keeping in touch with you as these things move through so we can get cleaner explanations on exactly what's going on. And
you bet. And I want to try and do the show more on a more regular basis, Mark, so that as things move quickly here and we provide the results that the American people want, and certainly my constituents in the 2nd District want, that we can keep them up to date about what we're doing.
Very good. Congresswoman Ann Wagner, thanks so much for your time.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Mark.
Have a great day. Thank you. Keep up the good work up there. Keep them on their toes. Don't let those Schumer clowns out of the web, as President-elect Trump so eloquently tweeted out today. Never thought you'd heard the words eloquent and tweet in the same sentence, did you? But you just did. How about that?